Hello, Namaste everyone. Har Har Mahadev. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to talk about Mars, Mangal. What does the planet Mars represents, signifies, and why it's important to see your Mars in your Vedic chart, in your birth chart. So that's what we are going to understand today. But before that, if you guys are new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon below. If you guys would like to have your personal readings from me, you can check out the link in the description box, www.anmolastrology.com. Under the reading and unique reading section, you can book a personal reading for yourself. For the courses, you can check out the courses section under the same website. All right, so let's talk about Mars, the planet Mangal. So, Mars, as we all know, is categorized to be the soldier in the astrology. The Mars is the planet of action, vitality. It's the planet of your intelligence also. See, your cleverness, your intelligence is very much associated with Mercury and Mars because Mars naturally rules the first and the eighth house. So, this is the house that governs your mind, that governs your cleverness. And Mars is actually, it has two sides to it. We never talk about the duality that is involved with Mars. But Mars indeed has duality or dual nature present into it. And what is that dual nature about? Mars from the first house represents self. It represents you, right? It represents I am, me, myself. So it shows self-centeredness. And with Mars' presence of sign in the eighth house, which is second from the seventh house, its exalted position in the 10th house, it shows as a planet of provision, a planet that is dedicated and is passionate to provide. So Mars is the provisioner, Mars is the humanitarian, Mars is also a very self-centered or sometimes very selfish planet. So Mars has this duality into it. Mars is your passion. Mars is where your energy goes. So, in whatsoever house Mars is placed, in whatsoever zodiac sign Mars is placed, whatsoever nakshatra Mars is placed, that particular three dynamics, that triangle is going to have your energy. Mars represents where your energy goes, and from where your energy, your physical transformation, the transformation of yourself comes. Because it's the significator of the eighth house. Mars is the competitive planet. Mars is competition. Mars is also the karka of your enemies because it's the karka of the sixth house. But Mars does beautifully in its karka sthan. If it's not into Karknash Bhava situation. Mars represents your siblings. It represents your male friends, male child as well. Mars nowadays is categorized to be your husband, your spouse for a female. Mars is male friend for a male, and it's the male friends and the boyfriends for a female. Mars is a planet which is important to see because it said there's one thing I always remember with Mars, that Mars has the ability to control everything because Mars is the control itself. If you have control over Mars, or if you have a good Mars, your action will always be guided correctly. Your actions will always be on the point. It's one thing I always remember about Mars is Mars, when goes into the ninth house, it takes the control of the whole Kundali for the whole Bhagya. That's how strong Mars position could be. Mars is also the agitation because Mars, wherever it sits, it creates a battleground there. Because Mars is a soldier, right? Mars is a sports person. You put Mars into the home. You put Mars into a situation where war is not required, where fight is not required, where sportsmanship, action, adventure is not required. What do you expect Mars to do? Mars will get uncomfortable. It'll keep on moving, moving, moving. You see some people who always have a tendency, like you'll see a lot of people, they're just standing, but they are, they're just shaking their leg, they're shaking, sorry, hand, they're shaking their leg, constantly standing at one place. That means that the energy of Mars is really, massive in their body. Or it's the 12th house Mars. Because Mars is highly present and the energy is not being utilized physically. So Mars also represents your physical effort. Mars is the karka of your real estate, of land, not like building, that's more Saturn, but land, machine. So with a weak Mars, you'll always have the greatest karma with properties, with land issues. With Mars presence in the fourth house, eighth house, 12th house, you will have to deal with land issues within your family. Sometimes in the second house also. But Mars is the also the planet who is the most dominating planet. The dominance of Mars is very much seen from its zodiac sign. If there's a powerful Mars, means you're very dominating, or your dominance is very disciplined, very harsh, because Mars is the harsh planet. And as KRS, Kapil Raj, my mentor as well, used to say this, that Mars is the planet. Just feel or just understand Mars to be wearing a jacket full of thorns. Whether if it's your friend, whenever it comes to hug you, it is going to puncture you. So Mars has a tendency to puncture, to betray. Because these zodiac signs that Mars represents, the Aries, the Scorpio, both are the signs of betrayal. Both are the signs of transformation. Both are the somehow selfish signs, right? Although you'll see that Scorpio is more attached to fear. That's why they can actually be very providing towards their family. But at the same time, they are doing so because they are selfish for themselves, because they cannot see their family in pain. They cannot see their family suffering. Mars is brutally honest. Mars comes into the second house or gets connected with the second lord. You're going to be on the face. You're going to be brutally honest. So Mars represents the first house. Mars represents the first sign, which is the sign of Aries, which represents impulsiveness. So Mars is impulsive. You'll always see the traits of a planet are always attached to the zodiac signs it rules. Its greatest strength is where it gets exalted. Its weakness or where its strength gets lost, or what are the complications or the negative side of that planet, that is depicted from its debilitated sign or its debilitated house. So, whether you look for the traits of Mars, you're going to have similar traits into the zodiac sign of Aries and Scorpio. If you look for the traits of Aries and Scorpio, you'll see that it's a combination of the traits of Mars. So it's vice versa. So first house is action, it's your energy, it's your physical body, it's your mind, it's your physical self, it's your identity, it's your personality, it's your confidence. So all of these things are represented by Mars. And here Sun gets exalted. So absolutely, it's a very, very independent sign. It's a very, very dominant sign. It's a strong sign. So Mars represents strength. It represents courage, valor. Mars is of harsh speech because Mars is brutality. It's force. It's fight, passion, right? All the actions which are taken out of passion or all the actions which are taken out of aggression, that's also triggered because of Mars. Now Mars rules the eighth house. Eighth house is the joint assets. So your Mars, the condition of your Mars is going to represent the joint assets. If you have a debilitated Mars, you'll always find it difficult to have joint assets with your spouse. Or there will always be issues around money matters, issues around, provision within your life, especially within your relationships with a debilitated Mars. So Mars rules Scorpio. It rules the house of transformation, the house of deception, the house of secrecy. Mars is also a very, very secret planet. Wherever Mars sits, in whatsoever house Mars sits, you will always have you know, some secrets in that house, some secrets that you don't like to talk about that house. And you know what? Wherever Mars is, you'll always exaggerate that house. You'll always show more of that house. If your Mars is somewhere, for example, connected to the second house, it's either in the second house, it's either aspecting the second house, or it's the Lord of the second house. You love to boast about money. You love to boast about status. Mars in the 10th house, Mars exalted. You love to put up a show of your status. You're always inclined with second and 10th house Mars. You're always inclined towards lifestyle, status, money. You'd always like to also associate with people who have it. Mars in the 11th house, always love to make friends for getting benefited from them or to have corporate recognition. Mars in the fifth house, extremely dominant with love relationships. You want to mark your domain with your love matters. And that person would absolutely want to get married into a love marriage or have a marriage of their own choice. You always want to exaggerate the area. You want to show off the area where Mars is. And that's one of the remedies to take care of your Mars, that do not show off where your Mars is. Put your action, put your courage there, put your self-effort there, but do not show off unnecessarily. Do not say something, but do something else in the area where your Mars is placed. Your Mars is also, Mars and Ketu also represents the abusive language. So if Mars gets connected to the houses of your speech, then you must never use inappropriate or rude language because that is going to affect your Mars ultimately. So, Mars ruling the eighth house represents the unpredictability of your life. It represents the secrets, the joint assets, your in laws, and your secret relationships. It represents the money or the finances of your spouse as well. To some extent, it can also represent the income or the career of your spouse also. All right. So Mars gets debilitated in the fourth house and in the zodiac sign of Cancer. Although this is its Kark Sthan. car ka house because Mars governs the land and real estate. So Mars gets debilitated in the fourth house or the zodiac sign of Cancer because now you put a soldier, a commander, a army person, or a sportsman into the home. You're telling them to work from home. No, they want free boundary. They want boundary-less place. They don't want to be restricted within the responsibilities of home. They don't want to be emotionally expressive. That's why Mars is raw. The energy of Mars is the rawest energy that you'll see. So Mars in the fourth house, your energy is going within the house, within the home. And then when there is too much energy in the home, you're pinpointing everything, you're criticizing everything. You're evaluating everything which a place which requires the comfort, the peace, the freedom of speech. You are now being restricted there. You're now adding on restriction there. So that's why it disturbs the happiness, it disturbs the happy environment. It makes you overly critical when it comes to emotions. It makes you controlling. It makes you over possessive when Mars gets debilitated. So that's also the shady and dark side of Mars. With a weak Mars, you will see all of these things playing out. You will have a tendency to pinpoint unnecessary stuff. But that also happens with an exalted Mars. But it's like with a debilitated Mars or with a weak Mars, you pinpoint it, but you also attach yourself with the fear that what if the other person reacts? Then I'm not going to able to answer. So it's like a very adjustable Mars, or it's like a very adaptable Mars. It will pinpoint. It will criticize, but at the same time will not be as forceful as an exalted or a strong Mars would be. So sometimes it's good to have a debilitated Mars. Sometimes it's good to have a Mars which is surrounded with certain planets which gives it diplomacy. And what if Mars, and why the reason why Mars gets exalted in the 10th house or in the sign of Capricorn? Because Capricorn is the sign of boundaries. It's the sign of discipline, and that's all Mars wants. Mars wants the right boundary to work in. It doesn't want to be restricted, but it loves to have discipline, the right form of restriction. It wants to have the platform to act, the platform to display its confidence, to exaggerate, to show off its energy, to execute its energy. So when Mars has influence on the 10th house, or if Mars gets exalted, or it's in the 10th house, it has the ability to have interactions within the society. But remember, any person with an exalted Mars or with a strong Mars, you should always be working. It's your karma to have ambition because without ambition, you will be the most frustrating person going around. Mars in the 10th house gives you that competitiveness to win, to get the power, to get the authority. So, Mars, another side is also that wherever it sits, it wants to mark a domain onto that house. It wants to rule that house. Although it's not the king, but it's working for the king. It's creating that space for someone. So, Mars is a planet that has a tendency to jump upon someone in power, to use them to get into power by themselves. That's the cuptiness of Mars. That's the cleverness you'll see in a Martian individual or you'll see in the Mars. How clever you are. How, I won't say diplomatic, I won't say um, passionate, but I will say mix of diplomacy, mix of politics, mix of dominance, mix of cleverness. That is what Mars is. So Mars actually represents way more than what is restricted with just the planet of energy, just the planet of your effort, your action. Mars is way more to it. Mars is the humanitarian planet, the planet that understands its responsibility towards the society and towards the one it has its bondage with. That's why it's exalted in the 10th house. A Martian person with a good Mars or Mars connected to the second house, seventh house, or wherever it is connected, you will understand your responsibility towards that house. You would want to provide that house because Mars is the provider. Mars will fight for you. Mars will die for you. A Martian individual will fight, die for you. But if you are the one to betray them, they will make you dead. They have the ability to kill you with their words, kill you with their actions, kill you with their absence as well. So that's how competitive Mars is. Mars is said to be the excellent manager. But one thing I would like to say here as a snapshot technique, do not assume a person with Mars in the ascendant and that too in a stronger position to be an excellent manager. Because Mars is the follower of order. When it is at certain houses, like the first house, the fifth house, it always needs the guidance of Surya. It always needs the guidance of some authority to act upon. So if you will tell them, do this, they will do that. If you tell them, complete this work, but do it by yourself, do it by your, if, in your way, they'll be clueless. They'll not be able to understand what I need to do. So sometimes a strong influence of Mars on your decision-making houses, like the first house, the fifth house, ninth and 12th house as well, it can make you become codependent or look for gurus, look for the Surya, the authority one, and you may not be able to take your decisions wisely. But if you are told to do a thing or an event in a certain manner, you can do absolutely great there. So do not consider Mars to be the owner, Mars to be the king. No, it's actually the follower. It's just how the Mars's energy is manipulated or, affected through the zodiac sign, through the other planets, that it will give you the ability of becoming independent, becoming an entrepreneur. All right. So I think that's what I have for Mars. I hope this gives you good insights into what actually Mars is because, you'll search on the internet, you'll search what Mars is, you'll get to know Mars is the planet of action, it's the passion, it's the impulsiveness, it's the sudden aggression, it's the suddenness. You'll get to know everything. But these are the things I think not much people would will talk about because that's the deepest side of Mars. All right. So that was it. We'll see you with the next video. Bye bye. Take care.